Many of you, I'm sure, are struggling every day to contain your sensitive data, data that has resided securely inside of your data center for years. Now your users with their mobile devices are looking for more than that. They're looking for access from their mobile devices and easy sharing with their partners and customers. While Novell Filer is a solution that provides you the best of both worlds. Your files reside securely in your data center and your users have mobile access and mobile sharing that they're looking for. So before we get into Novell Filer, let's take a look at how we got here. Novell pioneered resource sharing such as file and printer sharing over 30 years ago. Initially, it was due to the high cost of these devices. Since then, however, the central store of information, which in many cases is the lifeblood of most organizations today, was seen also as a means of securing that information from outside access, especially competitors. For anyone who was around in the early days, you will know that this infrastructure was not easy to set up and maintain. IT organizations were formed either internally or contracted to externally to do this for organizations. Over the years, certain things have definitely gotten easier, but at the same time, the number of things interconnected to this infrastructure have gotten increasingly complex. IT's role has remained secure. Due to their position inside of the environment, they have, over the years, become the de facto guardians of this information. They have secured it and protected it from both internal and external threats. While IT's been securing this information and protecting it from possible threats, users sometimes feel handcuffed by this and look for alternatives to get around some of the access controls that have been put in place. In the early days, it started off with floppy disks. Every computer had a drive, and it was an easy way to share information with someone else, either internally or externally. Simply copy the files and pass the disk along to that user. As email became more prevalent, this too became a means of sharing files. It of course created issues with your email administrators clogging your email system with all of these files. However, users found it as an easy way to bypass some of the restrictions put upon them by IT. And of course, today you have USB keys. They're everywhere. Whether you find them at trade shows or at the discount bin in your grocery store, no matter where you look, everybody's got USB keys. Who knows what information is contained on these devices when they are lost or passed on to other people. So your users have always had a need, or maybe just simply a want, to share those files with other people. But something else has changed quite recently, and that is internet access. It's everywhere, and it's also gotten cheaper. So if you combine that high-speed internet access that's found everywhere with the fact that mobile devices are getting smaller and more powerful every single day, users not only want to share files with other people, but now they want access to them as well. They want to be able to work off of these devices no matter where they are. Since those files are securely held inside of your data center, those users wanting to work off of these mobile devices have sought out alternatives. Fortunately for them, dozens of providers have sprung up over the last few years offering alternatives to users and a means to access files from their mobile device. This of course poses some challenges for IT since those files are no longer under their control. They're now floating out there in the cloud. So what's wrong with files in the cloud, you might ask yourself? Well, for starters, what happens to that data when the user leaves the organization? How do you know who else has access to that data? What happens when those cloud services go down or get hacked? Or better yet, how do you know if those cloud services are being hacked? You have no control or visibility into any of this. If you're in a regulated industry, you can't afford to take these kind of risks. If you look in the lower left-hand corner, a hospital has already been fined for compromising patient data that has been left in the cloud. You certainly don't want to be the next headline that appears in a slide such as this. Of course, there is a better solution to all of this, and that solution is Novell Filer. It lets you access files from a mobile device, lets you easily share files that you're authorized to share, and ensures that those files are securely stored inside of your data center. Novell Filer works with all of your existing storage, whether it's a NetWare or OES server, a Windows server, or a NAS device. It works with storage that you've spent decades, in some cases, accumulating and securing over that time. It provides access from not only traditional workstations such as Windows or Mac computers, but also mobile devices, WebDAV, as well as browsers. No matter what kind of a device you're using, you can access files inside of Novell Filr. When you introduce Novell Filr, it's actually a virtual appliance that you would drop into your environment. It runs in Microsoft Hyper-V, VMware, or Xen XEN hypervisors. Using industry standard protocols such as NCP or CIFS, it can access any of your storage and make that available to your users. On the client side, we also employ industry standard protocols such as HTTPS, REST, and WebDAV. Filr also ties into your existing authentication sources, whether that be eDirectory or Active Directory. We leverage the credentials that those users provide when they authenticate and ensure that all of the access controls that you've put in place actually are available to them on their mobile device. So not only is there not a need to upload all of those files to the cloud in order to be available from a mobile device, but you also don't need to duplicate or recreate all of those access controls. We leverage everything that you've got in place already. One of the other things that we've mentioned earlier is that Filr can also help you with the sharing of data. Provided you allow it, when your users share files with external users, those external users will get a link to the Filr system. They can then either self-register or use OpenID to authenticate and access those files. You do not need to maintain identities for all of these users. The users can do all of that on their own. Filr does indeed allow you to access all of your data center-based files from your mobile device, and if your administrator allows it, to share those files with other people, but it provides some other benefits as well. And the first is search and index all of that content existing on your servers. Even if those files have been there for 30 years, you can now full text search any of those files from either your mobile device or your browser. Since Filr does respect all of the existing access controls that you have in place, those results are of course filtered only to those things to which you have rights to. One of the other value-added features that Filr provides is email notifications. If you're collaborating with someone else or waiting for them to contribute their piece of whatever it is that you're collaborating on, you can subscribe to the file or to the folder and be notified when someone updates that file or contributes something else to the folder. That email will include a link back to the Filr system and to the folder where those changes occurred. So enough about the theory of Filr and how it works. Let's actually take a look at it. Here you see a screenshot of the Filr app on an iPad. The My Files area, when you click on that, it actually displays the contents of your home directory on the server. The net folders on the right hand side, those are all of your map drives or shares that you have access to on the networks. Shared with me is files that other people have shared with you internally. So those are files that you don't actually have rights to, but Filr is proxying those rights and delivering that view up to you through shared with me. The file lists below, as you can see, are recently accessed files in each of these areas. We'll talk about the rest of the Filr interface in just a few moments. It's important to note that all the other apps, Android, BlackBerry 10, and soon Windows, as well as the web interface, all have a similar interface. They all have the My Files, Shared with Me, and the net folders, providing a continuous and easy to use interface across all the different platforms. Here we've drilled into the My Files area within Filr. Again, these files are coming from your home directory, or simply the file list is coming from your home directory. We don't actually download all of the files, or any of the files rather, until you actually click on them. We've highlighted a few features in this interface to explain more about what's going on. The first is the full screen capability. So here we are seeing a preview of this Filr architecture diagram. If I were to click on the full screen button, it would hide the menu or the folder list on the left hand side and make this preview full screen. I have a choice to download that file to the device so that It remains with me even when I'm offline, if I'm traveling on a plane or someplace where I do not have network connectivity. Otherwise, this preview will actually disappear off of my device when I log out of the application. I do have the standard open in iOS, which allows me to pass this information to another application and open it there, where I could potentially manipulate it, print it through iPrint, for instance, or something else. I can also close the preview if I no longer wish to view this particular image. From the bottom, I can swipe up and actually see the comments. Right here, I can see that there are actually 4 comments associated to this particular document. I can use these comments to collaborate with my peers or even outside people on this particular file. If I swipe up on the comments at the bottom, this is what that looks like. As you can see here, I have the comments from various people with regards to this particular file. I can click on the plus, add my own comments, and the comments can also be threaded discussions. This allows us to very quickly and easily collaborate on that file. No need to email the file back and forth to each other and possibly lose track of the versions. We can keep the file where it belongs in Filr, which is really on our network file system, and collaborate on it that way. By clicking on the exclamation mark next to the file name, I can bring up the sharing and the action menu. From here, I can share this file with both internal and, if I'm allowed to, external users, as well as perform actions such as rename the file, move the file, and so on. Assuming the administrator has allowed you to share, when you bring up the sharing menu, this is what you will see. You can define additional people to share with. Those can be internal users, or if you're allowed to, external users. You can define the level of access, whether they're a view only or an editor of that particular file. If it's a folder, you can also assign contributor access, which means they can add additional files. You can also set an expiry date on that share, whether it is indefinite or it expires on a specific date or after a certain amount of days. You can also set what type of further resharing those users that you're sharing this will have. Can they share with additional internal users? Can they share with external users? Or can they even make this particular document public? Public means no authentication is required to Filr. Anyone accessing the Filr server will see this particular document. And lastly, you can also add a note with some instructions for the person that you're sharing it with. When you click on OK or save in this case, it will send an email to those people notifying them of the updated sharing instructions. Here you can see the shared with me folder or tab inside of the app and what that looks like. As you can see, it has a similar look and feel in terms of the files and folder list on the left hand side, and then a preview should you click on one of those files on the right hand side. Again, these are files that you do not actually have rights to, provided your administrator has allowed sharing. When someone shares a file or a folder with you, Filr is actually proxying those rights and making that file available to you. So now there is no longer a need to share a file with someone via floppy disk or a USB key or emailing it to someone, nor do you have to call the help desk asking them to set up a share on the network. You can simply create a folder, say in your home directory, share that with your teammates, and make those files available to you in a quick and easy manner using Filr. And again, the last part of the primary user interface is the net folders. These again are shares or map drives that you have access to on the network. By simply clicking in and drilling down on these, you can access any of your network files through this simple to use interface. A useful feature that Filr provides to you is shared by me. So these are all the files that you have shared with other people. If you need to modify a share for whatever reason, maybe terminate someone's access to something or add additional people to a file or a folder share, you can simply go to Shared by Me, look at the share, and edit its settings, adding more people, removing people, whatever you need to do. Here you can see an example of the searching capabilities within Filr. In this screenshot, I've done a search for Patrick, and as you can see, the beaverbrooks-_ee.pdf document contains the word Patrick Walker and is displayed in my search results. Earlier, we talked about the fact that in addition to the mobile apps, there is also a web interface that is available for people to access your files on your file system. Here you see a screenshot of that web interface, and as we've discussed earlier, you can see that it has those familiar elements of my files, shared with me, shared by me, net folders, and searching capabilities. Again, these files, or this listing of files and folders, in this case my files, is being pulled from your home directory on the server. So using this web interface, you have easy access to all of the files on your server. One of the other important things to point out on this particular screenshot is that Filr can also be customized in terms of the branding. As you can see in this screenshot, I've customized this with my Acme corporate branding in terms of the look and feel. The mobile apps can be customized, however, that requires some additional assistance from Novell in order to brand those for you. Filr also has apps for both Windows desktops as well as OS X desktops. This allows you to synchronize Filr contents to your local device and have them available to you even when you're offline. So if you're a traveling user or you're working from home or whatever your need is, you will have those files with you that are most important to you even when you're offline. This happens to be a Windows 7 desktop, and it puts an entry into the favorites section as well as the library section. If you were to click on the Novell Filr link in either one of those, you will see where the arrows are pointing below that you have a My Files, Net Folders, and Shared With Me folder. In each of those folders, depending on what you select to synchronize, you can actually synchronize the contents of those folders to your local device. Obviously, if you have a large network shared in terms of a net folder, that might be something you do not want to synchronize, but you have options as to how much content you want to replicate to your local device. Some of you might be looking at this and be very concerned about this ability to synchronize files and have them with you on a mobile device in terms of a laptop or a computer that may be sitting at home or out of your control. First of all, the ability to do this in the first place is governed by the administrator. So there is an option that the administrator must enable to allow desktop synchronization. Secondly, these files are indeed stored on this device in a native format, but Novell does offer encryption software that is available to encrypt this information should you so desire. Hopefully you've seen over the last few minutes that Novell Filr can give your users a simple interface and yet at the same time secure that information, making sure that it resides securely inside of your data center. Novell Filr allows mobile file access as well as easy to use sharing of all of the files residing in your data center. For more information about Novell Filr, please visit our product homepage at www.novell.com/Filr. You can get more information, product information, as well as download and evaluation if you're so interested. You can also use the Contact Me information button there, or just simply reach out to your local Novell person for more information. Thank you for spending time with me today.